let's go into the next thing. We got some notes here, handy dandy. So what do we talked about the elephant in the room.
And what about his replacement? Talk to us, at least for interim. There's going to be an interim replacement?
Correct. It's part of the bylaws. His name is Andrew. I am not going to try to pronounce his last name. Really phenomenal guy. So, yeah, you can probably see in the notes, I can't pronounce it. But before I even knew that he was going to become the interim director, he is actually the person that is running the general operations. Those general operations are where the training, the competition, the education, all flow through, the public relations and so on. So that's really his area of purview. So now he is the acting director of the NRA. When he was confirmed as the new general operations manager, I scheduled a meeting with him to talk about basically some of the education, the public relations, and the perception of the NRA and how we're going to be able to change that. This guy is dynamic. He is really progressive when it's coming to thinking outside the box. And I'm really looking forward to working with him. So,
right, and we're proper use of the word progressive there, like
proper use of the progressive. Yes.
Yes.
We can bring things like not every gun has to be featured with a walnut stock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little more for our type of people. He sees our side of the Second Amendment. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
He is actually there's for lack of a better word, a coalition of us who have brought some of these issues because we haven't necessarily had the best strategic planning within the NRA. So he is really open to hearing some of those ideas and looking to implement them. So.
Very cool.
So one of the things that that the NRA has a reputation for, and we're kind of touching on it here, is that other people don't want to join because they're like, all they care about are the hunters and stuff like that, right, at the end of the day. But I was reading through some of the stuff that you sent our way, like without the NRA, some of these big cases wouldn't have been won, like especially that stuff up there in New York. Like I had that just happened to within the last couple of years, so everybody might know about it now. But
right.
I didn't.
Still ongoing, right?
Still ongoing, but like
the fight's going.
So what would you say is to ease some of those fears? What are some of the things that the NRA is currently working on that you know of to push for these Second Amendment rights?
And there may be things you can't speak of, so feel free, like say, hey, there's things I can't talk about. Like, I trust you. We have trust in you as a group. So if you say to trust you, we'll understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, there are some things that I'm just going to omit from the conversation. Like, I'm just not going to bring up some of those things that they are doing. However, let's bring up one of the biggest ones that most people don't even understand. And that is actually the international treaties that would affect the NRA. So the NRA is really one of the only organizations that's equipped to fight the international treaties that are trying to suppress our Second Amendment rights. So you've got politicians who are looking to sign treaties with organizations, whether it's the UN or individual countries, that would suppress your ability to act on the Second Amendment. And the NRA is really the leader in that suppression and stopping that. That's one of the big ones. One of the things that I have really come to value from a strategic standpoint is their grading system of politicians. Everyone understands the influence or the lobbying that occurs. What they don't understand is that the NRA grades every politician for every election, but then they hold that politician accountable. If they gave a politician an A grade and that person got elected, and then they did a 180 or even a 30-degree change, and they did something that's going to violate that Second Amendment, when their election comes up again, that grade is getting changed. It's not going to be an A grade anymore. And that politician is really held accountable to how they behave. No other organization has had that consistent and effective review of political activities. Without that, you can sue all you want. But if every judge is going to be, anti 2A, then it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to get any cases heard. And so that's one of the important things they do.
And the best lawsuit to win is the one you don't have to file.
Correct.
Because you never broke a law.
Correct. And that's really where the NRA really excels, right? We keep stuff off of the floor of the Senate. We keep stuff off the floor of the House. And those things never get talked about. But that is an extremely important facet of what the NRA does. You don't need a lawsuit to fight a law that doesn't exist.
Right. That's right.
So yeah, it's kind of, and we talked about this a little bit before we went on, but it's kind of like the stats of gunfights avoided by tactical response alumni. Like we can't quantify it. So it doesn't seem as big as our 58-0-1 in the gunfights record.
Right.
But really, it's probably thousands. Thousands of fights avoided. So if we have an organization that's working hard at doing that and helping us avoid those fights, it's great when we've got organizations who are willing to be our backup in a fight. But if we've got an organization that can keep us out of a fight, we need to keep them fed as well.
Right. Well, no, and I'm glad that you brought up other organizations. Heaven knows I'm a member of every Second Amendment organization you can probably think of. It's not like I don't support the FPC. They get some of my money too. And I appreciate the fights that they make. One of the issues that the NRA has had is we've had to really pick big fights. We had to fight the Bruin case to allow for concealed carry in even places like New York, right? And so we're
look at all the
fighting
trickle
really
down.
big cases. Yeah, without Bruin, you don't have the fights in Hawaii, Illinois, and some of these other states, right? You don't have the ability to change that policy. But the other thing was, the NRA has been financially hamstrung by some of the lawsuits that they've been affected by. And so they've really had to be picky on how they're fighting and put their money behind certain things.
Yep. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that and the kind of the tough spot kind of since 2016?
Well, let's bring that up because I'll be honest, as a casual member of the NRA, I didn't understand any of that. And I think it's important to really understand context of what's going on. So certain politicians in New York, specifically Vullo and Cuomo, campaigned on ending the NRA. And to do that, one of the things that they did was cut off the NRA's revenue sources from every financial institution. New York being the hotbed of finances, they went to the banks and insurance companies and said, if you continue to have the NRA as a client, we just can't assure that we're going to renew your license or your ability to do business. And so companies had to go, sorry, NRA, we're going to keep our ability to continue staying in business.
Sounds like a First Amendment issue there.
And it is. That's a huge.
I'm just highlighting it for the viewers as you're rolling through. So we've got already a First Amendment issue. Continue.
So
I'm sorry, Isaac. I didn't mean to throw you off your flow.
No, you're fine. So these politicians essentially defunded the NRA. They took a lot of ancillary revenue sources that we had and cut them off. If we can't get member discounts on insurance, or if we can't get, commissions on insurance for members and things like that, that cuts off a huge revenue source of the NRA. So as that's going on, they actually went so far as to go to even London and say to various London banks, hey, we don't know that you're going to be able to continue to do business in New York if the NRA comes to you and you take them on as a client. So if our guys are aware of some of the banking issues where they even said, hey, banks might deny your purchase at the gun store if it's done on this credit card or that credit card, that literally stemmed from what New York was doing. So that violation of your rights actually stemmed from this. Well, that case has been going on for over 5 years. That has financially hamstrung and crippled the NRA dramatically. And fighting that has been financially difficult. Attorneys cost a lot of money. You drag out a case for 5, 6, 7 years, it's going to financially hurt.
Yeah. Well, luckily they're using our tax dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Like, great.
So kind of the cool thing was this violation is so stark. I mean, imagine any political organization, communist Russia, going to somebody and going, well, we don't really like your opinion, so we're going to cut you off. That's literally what the extent of this was. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, and the discovery is pretty damning against New York. And they've already had the briefs filed. That was on January 6th. And on April 16th, they're going to be doing oral arguments against the state of New York in the Supreme Court for this case. This has gone all the way to the Supreme Court. Notice that the media is not covering this at all.
Right.
When and
even
I say
GunTube.
I really
even I've seen like 1 or 2 videos here or there, but you have this. I guess it gets into what James always used to talk about, the gun community versus the gun culture, right? Like here we are with a case being brought in front of a sympathetic, I guess, for lack of a better word right now, Supreme Court on First and Second Amendment issues.
Mm-hmm.
Those are 2 pretty big ones. Like, you start letting the state take those away from you, nothing good happens after that.
I mean, we could honestly say that the membership of the ACLU and the membership of the NRA and Tactical Response probably don't have a huge overlap. And yet in this particular Supreme Court case, the ACLU has actually signed on as co-counsel against New York. So they are co-counsel with the NRA on this lawsuit. So it's a pretty big deal.
That is crazy.
It's pretty awesome.
When this case gets heard, and I have all the confidence that the NRA is going to win this fight, the damages that the NRA recovers are really going to put the NRA back in the Second Amendment fight in a way that we've not gotten to do before. But here's the good news, in all honesty. When we get those damages, while it's like winning the lottery, it's like winning the lottery with a financial planner as your guidance, right? The NRA has
who loves guns
all of those things. Right, exactly. So we know how that money is going to be applied, and we know that it's going to last a good long time. Really, for me, the important thing is making sure that the public, places like the Supreme Court, are getting to see the support that the NRA has now from the public. Number one, now that Wayne is gone. And hopefully, number 2, now that they have a little more awareness of, hey, this is going to be a landmark case when it occurs. The government is going to lose its ability to suppress that Second Amendment discourse in a way they've never been able to do before. So.